Could a 19-year-old from a small town in Louisiana actually be the resurrection of a musical era we thought was lost forever? The year 2026 has seen many flash-in-the-pan viral stars, but none have disrupted the Nashville ecosystem quite like John Foster. To understand the gravity of his impact, one must look past the polished stage lights of Hollywood and toward the rural landscapes of Addis, Louisiana. Here, Foster wasn't raised in a music conservatory. He was raised in a family-run meat market, surrounded by the gritty, honest sounds of 90s country legends. When he first appeared on the national stage, industry veterans weren't just impressed by his vocal range. They were unsettled by the sheer weight of his tone, which carries a grown-man resonance that contradicts his youthful appearance. This isn't the typical pop-country crossover we've seen dominate the charts for the last decade. Foster represents a pivot back to neo-traditionalism, a move that many thought was a commercial dead end in the digital age. Yet, his debut singles have defied every metric, proving that there is a massive, underserved audience hungry for the steel guitar and the storytelling of the past. As our investigation deepens, we see a young man who is not just singing songs but is effectively acting as a cultural preservationist. He has managed to bridge the gap between Gen Z's digital savvy and the old-school values of the Grand Ole Opry, where he has already become a staple performer. But as his star continues to climb at an unprecedented rate, the question remains: is this a natural evolution of a prodigy, or is there a more complex machinery at play behind the scenes of this Louisiana boy's sudden rise to the top of the global charts? What if the most heartbreaking lyrics in country music today aren't just stories, but a transcript of a real-life nightmare that changed a community forever? Behind the soulful performances and the rising fame lies a localized tragedy that continues to haunt the narrative of John Foster's career. In late 2022, a high-speed pursuit in West Baton Rouge Parish ended in a catastrophic collision that claimed the lives of two young students, Maggie Dunn and Caroline Gill. These weren't just names in a news cycle for Foster. They were his close friends, the very people who first encouraged his musical aspirations. Our sources indicate that the emotional core of his most successful 2025 and 2026 tracks, specifically the haunting "Tell That Angel I Love Her," is rooted directly in this trauma. While some critics have questioned the timing of releasing such personal material, those close to the artist insist that the music was his only method of processing a grief that nearly ended his career before it began. In our reporting, we found that Foster often avoids direct discussion of the event in promotional interviews, preferring to let the lyrics act as his only statement on the matter. However, the legal and social ripples of that 2022 incident still resonate in his hometown, creating a complex backdrop to his national success. He isn't just carrying the hopes of his fans, he is carrying the memory of those who didn't live to see his success. This internal conflict between his public triumph and his private sorrow creates a layer of authenticity that is rare in today's manufactured music industry. It's a weight that he wears visibly on stage, turning every performance into a somber tribute that resonates far more deeply than a typical radio hit ever could. How does an unseasoned teenager break a decades-old record at the world's most famous country music stage, while the industry's elite watch with suspicion? By the start of 2026, John Foster achieved a milestone that has left Nashville insiders reeling: 9 appearances at the Grand Ole Opry in record-breaking time. To put this in perspective, many established artists wait years, or even decades, to receive a second invitation to that hallowed stage. Foster's rapid-fire inductions into the Opry circle have sparked a wave of skepticism among industry purists who believe he is being fast-tracked by powerful interests. Our investigation into his 2026 schedule reveals an unprecedented level of support from the Opry's management, leading to whispers of favoritism or a strategic attempt to rebrand the Opry for a younger demographic. While his talent is undeniable, The speed of his integration into the upper echelon of country music has created a divide. On one side, you have the traditionalists who see him as the savior of the genre. On the other, you have skeptics who question if he has paid his dues in the traditional sense. This tension reached a boiling point during the early 2026 awards season, where Foster was noticeably absent from certain new artist categories despite his massive streaming numbers. Some suggest this was a deliberate snub by a Nashville old guard that isn't quite ready to hand over the keys to a 19-year-old from Addis. Despite this friction, Foster continues to sell out venues, proving that the audience's vote often matters more than the industry's approval. His presence has forced a conversation about what it means to be a country star in 2026, and whether the old gatekeepers still hold the power they once did in the face of a genuine grassroots phenomenon. Could the independent success story of the year actually be the most sophisticated marketing campaign in modern music history? As with any rapid rise to fame, the industry plant allegations have begun to circulate through the digital corridors of social media. In early 2026, several viral threads claim to have exposed Foster's background, suggesting he is secretly related to country legend Dwight Yoakam, or that he is backed by a shadow conglomerate of major label executives. These speculations often point to the high production value of his early independent releases and his sudden, high-profile appearances as evidence of a hidden hand. Our reporting, however, suggests a more nuanced reality. While Foster operates under an independent banner, he has successfully leveraged a network of veteran Louisiana musicians and savvy digital strategists who understand the curiosity gap marketing of the 2020s. We have found no verifiable evidence of a blood relation to Yoakam, yet the rumor persists because Foster's style so perfectly mirrors that era of country music. The controversy highlights a modern paradox. In an era where everyone wants authentic artists, any artist who succeeds quickly is immediately suspected of being a fraud. Foster himself addressed these claims in a rare 2026 live stream, emphasizing his roots in the family meat market and his years of performing in local Louisiana bars long before the cameras were rolling. Nevertheless, the debate over his independence continues to drive massive engagement online, ironically fueling the very growth his critics find suspicious. Whether he is truly a lone wolf or a well-guided protege, the machine behind John Foster is undeniably efficient, turning every piece of negative speculation into another reason for a new viewer to click on his latest video. Can a sound so deeply rooted in the swamps of Louisiana actually translate to the high-tech cities of Europe and beyond? In a bold and unexpected move for early 2026, John Foster announced a series of international dates, including a major headline show in Zurich, Switzerland. This decision sent shockwaves through his management team's critics, many of whom argued that his Cajun country aesthetic was far too regional to appeal to a global audience. However, the early data from his European ticket sales tells a different story entirely. It appears that the hyperlocal nature of his music is exactly what international fans are craving, a perceived authenticity that cuts through the generic global pop sound. Our investigation into his 2026 Gulf to Gumbo tour reveals a meticulously planned cultural export. This isn't just a concert series. It's a full-scale presentation of Louisiana heritage, complete with visual storytelling that highlights his life in Addis. From headlining the Rose Parade on a float that celebrated Gulf Coast culture to his 2026 interviews with international outlets, Foster is positioning himself as an ambassador rather than just a singer. This global expansion is a calculated risk. If he succeeds, he opens the door for a new wave of traditionalist artists to find markets outside of the United States. If he fails, it could be seen as a sign that neo-traditionalism has a hard ceiling. As of mid-2026, the momentum is firmly in his favor, with his Swiss debut selling out in mere hours. This suggests that the themes of family, faith, and local pride are more universal than anyone anticipated, proving that you don't have to change your accent to speak to the world. What is currently happening behind the closed doors of a high-security Nashville studio that has the entire industry holding its breath? The most recent developments in the John Foster story involve his highly secretive 2026 studio sessions. Following the massive success of his initial EP, Foster has retreated from the public eye to work on what sources describe as a genre-defining, full-length album. However, the project has been shrouded in an unusual level of mystery. There are credible reports of a mystery collaborator involved in the sessions, someone who reportedly comes from a completely different musical world than Foster's traditional country roots. This has led to intense speculation among fans. Is he planning a crossover, or is he doubling down on a sound that might alienate his core base? Our sources within the studio indicate that Foster has been experimenting with a more cinematic approach to his storytelling, moving away from simple ballads toward more complex, investigative narratives within his lyrics. This shift coincides with rumors of a potential documentary deal that would follow the creation of the album, further blurring the lines between his music and his personal life. The stakes for this 2026 project couldn't be higher. After a year of being the new kid on the scene, this album will be the definitive test of his longevity. If he can maintain his traditionalist integrity while evolving his sound, he could become the face of country music for the next decade. If the project feels forced or too commercial, he risks losing the very authentic label that brought him to the dance. As the release date approaches, the industry remains on high alert, waiting to see if the boy from Addis can once again defy the odds. When the dust finally settles on this whirlwind year, will John Foster be remembered as a true musical revolutionary, or just another carefully curated viral moment? As we conclude our 2026 investigation into the rise of John Foster, we are left with a portrait of an artist standing at a massive crossroads. He has successfully navigated the treacherous waters of reality TV fame, tragic personal loss, and industry skepticism to become one of the most discussed figures in modern music. His impact on the 2026 charts is undeniable, as is his role in revitalizing a dead genre. Yet the shadows of controversy remain: the plant allegations, the questions about his rapid Opry success, and the pressure of representing an entire culture on the global stage. What we see in Foster is a young man who is acutely aware of the curiosity gap that drives modern fame. He provides just enough of his personal life to feel relatable, while keeping enough in reserve to remain mysterious. This balance is the hallmark of a new kind of superstar, one who understands that in 2026, the story behind the music is often just as important as the music itself. Whether he is truly the savior of country music or a masterfully executed spectacle, his influence is reshaping how artists connect with audiences in the digital age. He has proven that a traditional sound, when paired with a compelling and slightly mysterious narrative, can still dominate a world obsessed with the next new thing. As John Foster looks toward the remainder of 2026 and beyond, his journey serves as a blueprint for the future of YouTube automation and digital content creation, a reminder that at the heart of every high-retention story, there must be a grain of undeniable human truth.